What's up, guys? We are here in our makeshift studio, well, kind of a real studio, not really my studio, Ray's studio, in Cleveland, Ohio. There's another episode of Get a Grip with Kay. I am your host, Kendall Rusing, and I'm here with Ray. Ray, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. So Ray Terry I'm really excited to have him on the podcast today. We kind of planned this before. I'm here for a seminar, flew out, but Ray has a really interesting story we're going to talk about today because he is a Jiu Jitsu brown belt under Dante Leone and Heath Pedigo. He's won Nogi Pans and American Nationals at different belt levels. He's a school owner. His school here is RTSC Training Center, and it's the second time I've taught a seminar here, actually. I think we decided yesterday it was, 2.5 years ago?
2.5, yeah.
2.5. That was really the beginning of when I was teaching a lot of seminars too. So it was like a very different time in my life. Very different. I may or may not have had pink hair at that time. There was a lot going on. Anyway, he's also, and this is one of the most exciting things we're going to get to talk about today, a musician with his band Kill the Fall, who just released a new single called Let It Breathe, which is amazing. And there's an album in the works, right?
Yes, there is.
Very cool. But how long have you been a musician, like years-wise?
Well, I started with bands. I started in 1998.
1998. Yes. Well, you're giving your age away now because I was born in 97.
There you
go. Awesome. Okay. So, the first question we're going to jump into. Now, for the listeners, we're going to get into a little bit more of Ray's story here soon because I want to have you guys get to know the man behind the music. But before we do that, we're going to jump right into the juicy stuff. So why don't you tell us what it means to you to have a grip on your life?
I think having a grip on your life would be just having good discipline, consistency, and that if you have those two things, then you have a good grip on your life, and things will fall into place and take care of themselves as long as you're disciplined and stay consistent with whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to do.
I got you. Okay, so discipline and consistency. But are we looking at that on a day-to-day basis, like as far as your habits, your food, your sleep, your training, or do you mean discipline and consistency as far as like constant recalibration towards one specific goal?
I think it's both. I think you have to have a large big picture goal of what you're trying to do, for like a 5-year plan, that type of thing. But then even bringing it down to, by the year, by the month, by the day, and by the moment. You have to be consistent with whatever you're doing. So if that means getting up at a certain time, doing a certain routine, and having that stay consistent from day to day, that's going to build you into reaching goals from day to day, week to week, month to month, and then into the bigger picture. So
yeah, it's good. And I think too that one of the things when I think about the words discipline and consistency is I find that if we aim to have those on a day-to-day basis, then when our goals get recalibrated, kind of like you're talking about maybe your 5-year plan shifts a year into it and you decide to change your goals. When you're in the habit of having discipline and consistency, it's not that difficult to pivot to the next thing and have faster progress to the next thing rather than feeling like you're starting over. Like it's a kind of a bend in the road rather than totally restarting or something like that.
Correct. And you know how to get things done. You know how to. So if you want to shift your goals, you have a change of plans. You just have that same blueprint and just put it towards a different goal and a different thing.
Yeah, that's such a good way to say it. Cool. Yeah. So, man, also for the listeners, if you guys are noticing the audio here, okay, I just want to give a huge shout out, Audio Technica, and what is our
Ryan Williams.
Ryan Williams. Amazing, came in and set this up. I know that has been one of the biggest requests and complaints for some of you guys who have been a little mean to me in the comments. I'm working on it. A lot of times when I travel, I have these like travel mics. They're just not that great. So I'm working on getting things more permanently set up in my new house since I've been moving and getting something where I can have people come out. It always sounds good. So shout out to Ryan and Audio Technica for getting us set up today. Sounds amazing. Okay, so let's jump in. I want to ask, first, later on, we are going to talk about Warped Tour because that is such a great story that you told me last night. And also shout out to Warped Tour. I went to Warped Tour one time when I was in high school. I did. I have a lot of different tastes in music, but high school was definitely, I went to a lot of concerts and did a lot of fun things. That was like my one little away from wrestling thing that I did. Was music.
What was your favorite concert?
This sounds, well, in high school, I don't know. One of my favorite concerts actually is Hozier. Hosier live was unreal. He's just amazing. And the way he captivates a crowd is just incredible, especially for kind of like a one-man like show kind of guy. I mean, he has his band, but he's pretty much doing all the crowd interaction and things like that. He's incredible. What's your favorite show you've been to?
Tool.
Oh my God. Different experience.
Yeah. Tool or Pearl Jam. So those are two of my favorite bands. And I was able to go. I actually came off tour here in Cleveland, and I had just a couple days before we had to get back on the road, and Pearl Jam was playing, and I was like, you know what, it's kind of a bucket list thing, so I just went there. Funny story, I went there to the door, it was sold out. I'm like, oh man, whatever. So I went to leave, and just a random guy was like, are you trying to go to the show? I'm like, yeah, it was sold out. But he's like, here you go, give me a ticket.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, well, I'm like, what do you want? He's like, you a musician? I'm like, yeah, I don't know how. Maybe it just looked like it or whatever. But I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, just go enjoy the show. I was like,
you don't think he knew about the band? Like he didn't like, or was he a fan? Or
I don't know.
That's so wild. That's
crazy. He didn't mention anything about that. He just strictly said,
that's amazing.
Here you go. Aww. So I went in and enjoyed the show, and then I've seen Tool 3 times.
Wow.
So.
Man, that's one of those things, like, you ever see the Instagram page, or there's a TikTok too, it's like restoring faith in humanity, or like, oh, this video restored my faith in humanity.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of those things I'm like, man, like, yes, I know like today is a hard time. Like we look, especially with media, like everything on the media is super sensationalized, and it's like, oh my God, like I don't have kids in a day and age like this, like, or they're so worried about the next generation. There's so much negative stuff, and there's drama, and there's COVID, and there's politics, but when you hear stories like that, I'm like, I do truly believe that like people are really good, like at their core, like most people are very good.
I think that if you look for negative, you're going to find negative. If you look for positive, you're going to find positive. Yeah. So anyone that just sits there and says the world's terrible now, and this and there's the government does this and the politics. Okay, if you only look at that all day, then that's what you're going to see.
For sure.
If I asked you to look for, a certain color in this room,
right,
then you're going to find that color.
It's like those video tests, right? Where it's like you're watching the video and it's like, oh, at the end, they're like, oh, did you see the gorilla? And you're like, no, I didn't see the gorilla in the background. Yeah, because I was focused on finding the ball, like counting the balls, or like whatever the project of the video.
100%.
That is such an interesting concept to me. Like what we are looking for, and also I believe too, like what we are putting out into the world, we are magnifying, or we're magnets.
Yeah.
Like we're attracting like the same energy that we're putting out is what we're bringing in.
Yeah,
so
you amplify anything. Yeah. Like if you put out negative, you're going to get negative back.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. If
100%.
you put out positive, you're going to put positive back. So in the same, light, if I only look at all the negative in the world, then my life is going to be miserable.
Dark. Yeah.
And I'm just going to talk about how miserable it is. Yeah. I'm going to talk about how the world sucks and, this, that. So, yeah. And then everybody around you, you start, especially if you're a leader, they start thinking the same thing. Now you have a room full of people that are like, man, this sucks. And they're doing this to us and they're, this, that. But if you stay positive and only look for positive, then all of a sudden everything's, because things are still cool.
Yeah,
there's still great, beautiful.
There's a
lot of beautiful things in the world still.
There are.
There's a lot on a daily basis. Look at the news. You can find stories that somebody helped somebody or somebody did this great thing, or the news can pick all the negative, and then when you start getting into why they're doing it, if they want you as a society and as people to be negative and be down, then just pump them full of bad news.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you want, but if the positives out there, for sure.
Yeah, man, it's so interesting you mentioned that. And then I'll ask you about Warped Tour. But but one of the things that I think about a lot when people talk about COVID is like my biggest criticism of COVID, or sadness really, is the media. Because I feel like through the pandemic, people were put through more than usual a state of panic, anxiety, fear, and very purposeful, like whether not even to get into the whole conspiracy theory of like, oh, we're trying to be controlled. Like that's a conversation, but it's a different conversation than the one I'm bringing up. The one I'm bringing up is like, doesn't really matter what side you were on. Everything you were being pumped was to terrify you.
From both sides.
For both sides, I believe. Yeah. And it's like we had these kids grow up. It's just that, honestly, it's criminal. Like for me, that is so criminal. Like psychologically, what the media did to people during COVID, like how people are not held accountable in media at all. And that,
yes, I agree with that.
That makes me so angry, like more than anything else out of the whole situation. So anyway, but that's kind of goes back to what you're saying, like what you're choosing to look at, like negative versus positive. So I can get angry about that. And then I also try to release it and say like, okay, well, how can I fight against that in my own very small way? Like just in my personal world, it's like, well, those are the conversations I have with people close to my life. I'm like, okay, well, let's turn the news off. Let's look around, open my eyes, what's going on, like right in front of me in my real life with my people in my home and my family and my team. And like all of that. So, okay. So getting into Warped Tour, we were talking last night about, I think what sparked this conversation was there is a lot of arrogance and entitlement in the jiu-jitsu community. And
in music too.
Yes.
It's not just jiu-jitsu.
In human nature.
I was going to say probably just as humans, but
in every industry.
In our two industries.
Yes.
It's pretty.
Yes, there's a lot of entitlement, and I think especially the bigger something gets, like jiu-jitsu getting more traction now, people didn't used to have the same level of entitlement at Blue Purple because you couldn't get anything at Blue Purple Belt. Now you have like some of these little Instagram superstars that get put on Who's Number One once, and they think they're hot shit. So with the entitlement comes, in my experience, the fear of hearing no. Right? Because if you have this level of like arrogance and entitlement, and you think you're already this like celebrity, whatever that even means in jiu-jitsu, or in music, right, in the very beginning, you can't hear no because then that really hurts the image that you have of yourself. So you kind of stop asking, right? And then that's, in my opinion, like the killer of what could maybe be a great career. Because for me, like, and I know you're going to talk about this, I've been told no so many times by shows, by people I wanted to fight, by sponsorships, by gear and different kinds of brands, by seminars, like private lessons. Like I've been told no so many times. And a big part of, in my opinion, why, and statistically, why I am here as one of, and from what I hear from different people I talk to, one of the higher paid women in jiu-jitsu is mostly because I don't stop asking. And then also when I do get an opportunity, I work my ass off to do a really great job. So it's not like, you talked about that band like the other night. It's like not like, okay, I do get a yes or I do get my big break. And then I walk in and I'm like too cool for school. Cause I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hot shit now. Like, I got this thing. Yeah. It's like, no. Once you get the thing, you're in relationship building, and now you're in your reputation building. It's like show up on time, be professional, give great product, engage with fans, like whatever it is, put on a great show. So we know there's a lot of entitlement in both industries.
Oh, yeah.
And from that stemmed a conversation of you hearing no a ton, which ended up landing you probably one of your biggest gigs that you've had. So walk us through that story a little bit.
Well, when I was coming up, so everything I did with the first band I was in, which was a punk band called Allergic to Horrors. Okay. And it has, it's not it's like the corporate horror type. So it was nothing misogynistic.
Okay. Like just to clarify before the haters come to me.
Yeah. Well, and back then it was like a little more in like written magazines because there was no, Instagram. Yep. But we got every interview. That would be a common question of, well, why the name? And it's,
You think that worked for you though? You think that caused more questions and like more attention in media?
I think it definitely.
Allergic to horse.
Yeah. So at first, like if you see that on a flyer,
for sure,
you have some intrigue, like what the hell's that?
Yeah.
Right?
You might love it or hate it.
Right.
It causes some polarity, which is good a lot of the time in media.
And the funny thing is, the women in music industry had no problem with it. Huh. They didn't care. They understood. They're like, because there's more than, so like I always would tell people that interviewed me and kind of like try to give me a hard time about it. I said, well, why are you saying that only a woman could be a whore?
Yeah, so maybe you're the problem. Maybe the lens you're viewing through is the problem. Yeah.
Right. So anyways, that was the first band I was in, and I did everything DIY. So I booked all the shows. I managed the band. We got to any record deals that we had. I did all that work, all the groundwork, and on top of that, played the shows and everything else. So I wanted to get on Conan O'Brien show.
Mm-hmm. That was the dream, right?
Yeah, I thought I was a fan of the show. I think he's funny, and I was like, I just want to, I don't care because that's the other thing too in the punk community. If you do anything corporate in
Mainstream,
any way.
yeah, you're a sellout.
So I was like, kind of like, fuck that. I'll do what I want to do. If I want to get on that show, to me, that's more of the punk ethic and the punk attitude. Of like, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're not going to stop me.
Right.
So I wanted to get on that show. So I started, first thing I did was, the credits roll. I look who does the booking for the bands, for the music. And then I started calling New York offices and calling all these people. And they're just like, why? Like at first they were saying, well, why are you calling here? So I'm like, oh, okay. In my head, I'm like, well, obviously he doesn't work out of this office. So,
and at this point, you were just playing local shows, right? Or had you toured?
No, we were touring. We started touring. So a backstory on that: we started touring right away.
Oh wow!
Because back then, right? Because I'm old, but back then, the only way to get your name and music out was to tour.
Play for people.
Period.
Yeah.
Right? Now, music.
There's no SoundCloud.
No. And there was no YouTube. There was no Instagram. There was no Spotify. None of that. It was CDs and play the show, sell your CDs. And if you played to 10 people, the next time you played to 20. And it literally, that was the build. It was no magic.
Right.
At least for us. Yeah. So we started right away. We went out and started our first tour before we had a record out. And we just had T-shirts. So we would sell the T-shirts and say, hey, and we'd come back. And then next time we had a 7-inch record out.
Wow. And
we sell that. And then every time we came back, we had a little bit more merchandise. And then finally we had our first record deal with Sound Pollution. And it was a record label out of Kentucky. Smaller, not super small, but smaller record label. It had a big distribution network here in the States. He went through Mortem distribution, which was bigger. And then in Japan and Europe, he had a lot of pull over there too.
Okay.
So we started doing that, and then we just play. Literally, I mean, you watched it grow. Yeah. And I remember we were on tour, and we played Pittsburgh, and I was friends with the guys from a band called Anti-Flag, and they came to the show. And I was talking to him. I'm turning my back to the crowd. I'm talking to him like I'm looking at you right now. And we're talking, and he's like, "It's going to be a good show tonight, man." I'm like, "Okay." And I look at my drummer, and he's like, kind of like wide-eyed. I'm like, "What the hell?" So I turn around, and it was sold out. Like just
no way.
Yeah, just like I mean, and
you
it wasn't
didn't expect that?
like an arena, but it was a smaller. I think it fit like 300 people.
Wow.
Right?
No, but you have to know, like when I look back on moments like that, it doesn't matter that me now, like looking back on some of the wins that I had early on, it doesn't need to be big to me now. It was big to me then. Yeah. And to celebrate that is really cool because that feeds the momentum, especially when you're doing things so hands-on, like talk about guerrilla marketing. I mean, this is like old school guerrilla marketing. There's no 100%. Cheat code. There's no shortcut. So when you turn around and you've got 300 people waiting to hear your music, I mean, that had to have felt at the time like winning the lottery.
It did, because you got to remember too, and some people that were around back then, I still, a couple, like my buddy Joe from Pittsburgh, he's in Jiu Jitsu now. So there's a lot of people that crossed over and went into the Jiu Jitsu world, but we were playing to 15 people. Like our very first show out of town was in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay. And we played at a house. It was a house show. And we got paid 50 cents and 3 cigarettes. And I don't smoke. So I'm like, what the fuck you want me to do with this? You gave me 50 cents and 3 cigarettes and I don't smoke. Yeah. So what am I going to do?
Well, and here's the kicker for most people that have dreams, no matter what industry it is, it's like you are spending your own money to get there. Oh, 100%. It's like, it's not the fact that the idea that when you're starting out in something, like you're like, have your hand out to get paid is crazy to me. Like these jiu-jitsu kids that are blue, purple belts, and they want to get on some of the biggest shows that we have. And they're like, well, where's my money? And I'm like, no one's here to see you. Yeah. Like you get paid when people are paying to see you, when people are buying tickets to see you. And an organizer putting you on a show before you're adding value before you add value as far as monetary value is what I'm saying, is the payment, because 100%. Now you're getting exposure. People can see you have the opportunity. So it's so crazy to me. It's like, no. Like you paid to play in front of those people. And then that led to something later on, but you don't just start living the dream.
No, we toured for probably before anything real, like substantial happened, at least 2 years.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
we were broke.
Man.
We all lost a ton of weight because I'm not trying to fabricate it.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were starving. We were poor. We were dirty. We couldn't take shots. We didn't have hotels. We slept in the freaking van. You know, there's 3 dudes in a van, and with our equipment, all not a trailer. It's just all packed in, and we're sleeping on top of amps and everything else. And we would go
What kept
days.
it going though? Like, what
Drive.
was the dream? Was it the dream to just keep playing music? Was it the dream to be famous? Was it just like fuck society? I don't want to do anything else. Like,
No, I wanted to be a musician.
yeah,
And that's all I ever wanted to do. And consistency.
yeah,
You know, same thing we started with. Like, it's just I'm going to keep doing this because it wasn't like we were playing for 5 people and then the next time we came back there was no one here.
right.
We played for 5 people and next time there was 10. Okay, and then a lot of people would go, it's 10 people. To me, it was like we just doubled. People like it. And then next time we come back, there's 30. Oh, we made it. Like, you know what I mean? And we played every show. Anyone that was around back then that saw Allergic to Horse play will tell you we played to those 5 people like it was an arena.
So this is really important to just have some recognition of, because that I think about seminars. Seminars is a great way to reference this or to compare to. You, no matter, or just even teaching about your class, and you know this because you have a school. So there were times during our schools where we have 4 schools back in California. Some are bigger than others and some are longer term or times than others. Been open longer than others is what I'm saying. So anyway, there's times where like you'd walk into class and it's 2 people.
Same.
And you better teach those 2 people like you've got 50 people in front of you. Because if you teach those 2 people with heart and with passion and with care and with professionalism, that 2 is going to turn into 3 and the 3 is going to turn into 4. 100%. And it goes back to what you're saying is the perspective of having 3 and then 6 and then 10 and then 30 is like, instead of letting the goggles you're viewing them through being this is not enough, it's like, no, this is a sign that I'm moving in the right direction. It's a confirmation.
And it's looking at the positive.
Yeah.
Not the negative, which we started the conversation with, which is how do you look at things? Do you look at, I just drove, and this is true story, I just drove from Chicago to Lincoln, Nebraska to play for 12 people in a coffee shop. Is that, do you look at it and go, man, fuck this. We just drove. We haven't eaten in, over 24 hours. We're sweating. It's the middle of August. You're in a van with no windows. Oh my God. You're just dripping. You feel disgusting. Yeah. And you get out of the van, you load your stuff up, and you got a handful of people. Do you just say, screw it and mail it in and not play a good show and then go home and say, I'm done? That's the negative. Or do you say, you know what? Those 12 people have never heard us, and they're going to go tell somebody about this show tonight. Yeah. And you blow their freaking ears off. Yeah. And then they do. And they go, man, this band, there was nobody there. And it's when you go back and start talking, like we played St. Louis in this little, maybe it was a crack house. I don't know what the hell it was. It was terrible. But we played a show, and literally there was only maybe 5 people. Yeah. And we didn't get back to that until like a year later. And we come back and we're playing St. Louis, but now we're in this big abandoned bowling alley that they do shows at. And there's video of this online, and it was packed. Wow. I mean, I don't know how many people, but hundreds of people, and they're singing the words. And you know what I mean?
It's got to feel so good.
But the great part is the promoter said, yeah, I was at that show that you played. And I just started telling everybody, you got to see this band. There was nobody here, and they still played like it. And that stuff sticks.
And caring about the 3 people that may tell their friends. There's, 20 people in the crowd. You think 3, you're like, okay, doing the math. Like, how many people are going to tell their friend about this? They're going to go to a show next year. They're going to hear about us. Oh, that friend has a cousin in Nebraska, and they might come to the show when they hear about it. It's like caring about the tiny stuff adds up so much over time. And a lot of times, we were talking about this last night, people can do that for a short period of time. and they have this little motivation burst and they're like, okay, but once 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 2 years rolls around, they're jumping from thing to thing to thing to get this hit of confirmation. It's like sometimes you have to survive on very little positive reinforcement for a long period of time before things start snowballing. And it takes a long time. And that's why a big part of in jiu-jitsu or music of like winning or making it happen is just not quitting. Like so many of the people I used to compete against, even some of them that I used to lose to, they aren't even around. Like they're gone. I haven't even seen them in years. So much of it is just staying.
Yeah. Well, consistency. Just be consistent in what you're doing. And also, how about having a care for the person that, say there's 3 people there. They could be somewhere else.
Yeah.
They don't owe you shit.
So true.
They don't owe you a thing. So the fact that they're there to watch your show for whatever reason it may be, maybe they saw the name, they're like, I got to see what this is about. Or maybe they just wanted to see live music. Whatever the case is, they're there.
They're giving you their time and attention. Yeah.
That's
currency.
That means something. Yeah, it's value. So give them everything you have. And even if, and here's the thing, we didn't do it like, oh, but they're going to tell their friends. We did it because they're there.
Yeah.
And we have pride in what we do. So we're going to fucking give you the best show we can because we are proud of who we are and what we do. And then, the bonus was they tell their friends. There's no guarantee.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe they maybe they just want to keep it to themselves. This is my band that I know that but yeah,
keep it underground, keep it punk, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a whole nother
I know.
But
and before that, I just want to say too one thing because you guys have your new single that's out and Kill the Fall. Their Instagram is growing again. You guys are because it's a new venture that you've been on, and I wanted to mention what you said about people's attention is something I see directly correlating on Instagram. So or social media in general, TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah.
This is something that I think anybody listening that is looking to grow their career on social media, which so many people are nowadays, whether you're, selling things on Etsy or you have a marketing agency or you have a jiu-jitsu school, right? So any of this stuff, like I remember when I first hit 10K followers and I thought it was so cool to see the number shift from 4 digits to 2. I was like, oh, 10K.
Nice, yeah.
And because I was like, as an athlete, like I was like, okay, now I can maybe go to sponsors and I have a little bit more negotiating. I will tell you, nothing happened for me at 10K. Like, there was no financial incentive or anything at all. Maybe other people have different experiences, but for me, that didn't happen. But what I found was helpful is I treated every single person that I came in contact with virtually like a person I actually gave a shit about. Truly, people would message me, and then these days I do my best. I do miss a lot more stuff just because there is a little more volume. Yeah. But especially when it was more manageable, every single time I could, I would message people back. Like I was grateful that they were there listening to me. Like at the time, a young girl in her early 20s, like what did I have to? I mean, I just shared like it was a journal, but I think having the perspective of like taking the entitlement off and being like, wow, this person could direct their time and their attention anywhere. Yeah. Anywhere. There is so much of an abundance of cool, funny, amazing information, entertainment, music, whatever, jiu-jitsu, and they can have their energy anywhere else. And if I really treat these people like I give a shit because I do, because I'm grateful, like, whoa, you're paying attention to my stuff. What a privilege. Like, this is so cool. Then it's going to grow because it's genuine, not because I, collabed my post with some creator and then it went viral or something like that. Like that can help intermittently. But if that's my goal, I think Gary Vee says this, it's like trying to create viral content is hard because I'm creating now for the wrong reasons and it's not going to hit. It doesn't feel like that. But if I'm creating for the right reasons and every once in a while something will go viral, that's like the byproduct. That's not the goal. So it's kind of like when you are going around and playing shows, you're like, no, I genuinely care about every single person in the audience. I'm grateful for their time and attention. I'm not hoping that one person, they actually are a secret record person and they're gonna sign me after the show. Like that's everyone's dream from watching that happen in movies. And it's like, look, man, if that's your thing and that happens 3 years in, that's the coolest shit ever. That's great. But if you're playing for that reason, then you're not going to hit home with people's hearts because people can feel it. It's like, no, you need to play to them because you are playing to them and for them and with them and experiencing something with them. And then obviously that's what you did and then it grew. Yeah. So, okay. So going back to Warped Tour, I know that you So then by the time you were calling these people, you were already fairly big. You'd been touring for a couple of years.
Big is a,
It's relative too, yeah.
So, and everything we talk about, you got to remember it's an underground scene. So like to maybe some of the listeners, big, we're not talking radio hits, number one hits, like Ryan actually had, I think like 2 number one hits.
Really?
Yeah. He's like legit on the charts.
Bands?
It was in a band called Red Sun Rising.
Okay.
And I think it was around 2016. I think, or somewhere in that time period. He worked with the same producer we're working with now is Bob Marlette.
Okay.
And he's done everything like Saliva, Shine Down. Marilyn Manson, Tracy Chapman. He's
big time.
Oh yeah. But anyway, so that's not when I say, if we use the word we got bigger or big, it's not that level. But
in the punk scene, yeah.
But yeah, and we were drawing, hundreds of people a night. So to us, it was a success.
Yeah.
And it was our job. Mm-hmm. That's the key too. We got that. So going back to why were we doing it? That's the career I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted whatever it meant. I don't care if it's on the radio. I don't care if it never hits the radio, as long as it's genuine music that I love doing and it's my career. I can make a living off it. Yeah. That was the goal.
Feeding me. Yeah.
Yep. And I don't care about big houses, nice cars. I just want to sustain life.
If I can survive and I can keep doing this
That's
thing.
it.
That's it.
And survive comfortable. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I wanted to have a comfortable life and do music. That was my career. Same as anybody who works anywhere else. My dad was a custodian. He lived a comfortable life. That was his career. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have my career something that I love doing. Because if you find something you love, you don't really have to work, right? Because you love doing what you're doing. Right. So fast forward to, we did the Pittsburgh show and we're like, okay. And then from then on out, the numbers started going up. Right, we were playing to good crowds and big size crowds, a couple hundred a night, getting paid well. So for the punk standard, we probably people maybe say we sold out, but we were at least eating. So and not to sidetrack too much, but that was I remember this story too. The funny conversation I had. We were in Chicago. I think it was like in the suburb outside of Chicago. We had just played Chicago, and then we played it was the Iowa, the Quad Cities.
Okay.
There's like those 4 cities by Iowa and Illinois. Mm-hmm. So we were playing there, and it was an after party. Everyone's doing what they do at an after party, hanging out, everything. And this one guy, he was a college kid, and he kept on and on about how, do you guys get a guarantee? Yeah, we have a guarantee. Well, I thought you were a punk band. Why do you have a guarantee? Why should a promoter have to guarantee you money and blah blah? Oh gosh. I'm like, because we want to get fucking gas.
So we can eat, yeah.
And
we can get there.
Yeah, even
so
take the
arrive.
eat out of it. Just how about the gas money to be able to get to the next show?
Right.
And then eat so we actually have some kind of energy to play the show. No one thinks about those things when they say a band sold out. It's like, well, they're trying to make a living. They're trying to live, survive, have a enjoyable life and do this for you. So anyways, so the Warped Tour story, I just wanted to get on Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
And so I started calling every number that I can get related to NBC, and I was just calling.
So when you would hear no, was your question, okay, well, who else can I call?
Yeah, 100%. So if I'm talking to this person, the secretary or whoever it was, I'm like, okay, well, if he's not there, where's he at?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I can't give you that information. Well, do you know anyone that I could talk to? Maybe that whatever I said, I can't remember what I said, but whatever. And then she would give me another number. And finally, I figured out he wasn't in New York. He was in Nashville. So then I would lead with, I know his office is in Nashville, but I lost the number. Can I get the number there? This is the only number I had. Yeah. Oh, okay. So finally, I end up getting a hold of his office, and his secretary put me right to him.
Oh wow! Because I guess if you get that number, they assume that you already know him.
Exactly.
And it's funny because along the way, this is so powerful as you are taking steps forward. It wasn't always a step forward. Sometimes it was a step sideways because they couldn't put you through to a higher person, but they could give you something so that it wasn't a dead end. So you might go sideways or maybe even backwards, but you were still moving.
Yeah, 100%.
And that, like,
just like in jiu-jitsu,
insistence,
right? Keep
yes,
moving.
and that insistence to continue to keep moving eventually led you to the right place. But it's easy to get discouraged if your heart is not really in it, because when you hear a no, it allows it to stop and be a no instead of, well, you know what? I'm going to keep moving, whether I go sideways or back a little bit or forward or whatever. And then eventually, like, there's this saying I heard the other day that's so good. This girl was like, if I was going, and this applies to so many things, if I was going to drive from, it's so funny because I know you don't like to fly and you drive everywhere across the country, but if I were to drive from Dallas to Los Angeles, what I want is to be able to zoom out and see the entire map of everything and know where all the directions are going to go and every turn that I'm going to take. But what life really feels like to me, especially, I mean, in general, in any arena, but especially when you're chasing something where there isn't a super clear-cut path. Like a lot of times when you have a career that's more traditional, you have this path and you're trying to copy and paste someone else's thing, which makes sense because they've shown a path to success. But when you're in a bit of a different boat, like you and I, you're not really sure what it's going to look like and you're just trying to make it happen. So going back to the map, you know that you can't see the whole map. But if you get in your car and you drive a little bit each morning and you know you're going in generally the right direction and you're going to keep driving, then eventually you're going to get there. Once you get there, you can look back and see the whole map and see all the turns you had to take. And you probably wasted, not wasted time, but you probably didn't go the complete straight shot because you couldn't have seen that from the beginning. And you look back and there's all these swerving and turns and you're like, wow, I kind of wasted a lot of miles. But it's the only way that you could have gone because you couldn't see the map in the beginning, but you still got there. So, and that's what that story reminds me of. Okay, so you get to a secretary.
Yeah, so she puts me through, and I'm introduced myself as, I'm Raymond Terry from Allergic to Horrors, and he literally said, "Who the fuck are you?" I'm like,
allergic to horrors? Like, who gave this guy my number?
Right. So with confidence, I'm like, I'm Ray Terry. He's like, how did you get this number?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just told him. I said, listen, I just called until somebody gave it to me.
How long of a period of time was this?
Months.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, literally.
Wow.
I mean, because I wasn't just, you got to remember, I wasn't just sitting there doing this one thing. I'm booking a tour. I'm doing, so like, I just keep hammering away at this while I'm hammering away at these other things.
Well, and people don't answer and you got to call them back and leave voicemails. So this is like a period of what, like 4 or 5 months or something? And
no, it was only probably like maybe a month and a half. It wasn't that long, but it wasn't just a week or a day.
You're hammering away different numbers. Okay.
Right. So I finally get a hold of him and he said, listen, I'll give it a listen. But
just because you did all this work to get here.
And he's like, but just the name alone is going to be
not really our style for a national television show.
Right. So I'll give him props. He actually listened to it. He told me where to send the CD.
What's this guy's name?
I forget now.
I forget so good.
Because it didn't register because I never worked with him again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never had a relationship with him. But he listened to it, called me back, said, "Nah, there's not for us. There's not a chance in hell that we're because it was a very fast, melodic but like fast thrash punk band. So it was like not radio friendly.
Can you still find it online?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you on Instagram,
search Allergic to Horrors if you want to know what he proposed for Conan O'Brien.
It was. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like mainstream friendly whatsoever.
Yeah. There's a crossover, though, in jiu-jitsu and punk community. I'm sure you already know this, but there's quite a big crossover, like, of really hardcore punk guys and girls and jiu-jitsu people. Like, the
lifestyle is very similar.
Yeah. The weirdos, we always find each other.
Very true.
Always find
very true. So he's like, listen, that's not ever going to fly. It's just no chance. But he said, it would probably be a good fit for Warped Tour. I'm like, I had no idea it was coming, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, man. I swear to God, I almost just hung up. And he's like, so let me give you Kevin Lyman's contact. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, who the hell is Kevin Lyman?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's like, and then later I found out he's the one that created it at Warped Tour.
Oh my God.
So he gives me his contact. I send him the same thing. And I get a hold of Kevin Lyman. And I actually talked to him, which is like, I don't know how that even
Big
happened.
deal, yeah.
And he's like, dude, it's not. It's already like booked.
Yeah.
Like we already know the dates. By the time the dates are out, the bands have been known. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, but I'll give it a listen, and maybe for next year. I'm like, okay. He's like, he calls me back. He's like, hey, can you be in Bozeman, Montana on this date? I'll give you 3 weeks on a work tour.
Holy moly!
I'm getting goosebumps now because I was like, oh fuck, really? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. No clue how many. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'll be there.
You're like, I'll walk.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll ride my damn bike there.
And then so we did it, and then he said, Bozeman, Montana I think it ended up in Boston. Okay, was the last show. So we came through the country and we ended up in Boston, and so I just So of course, me being like always wanting to work and build. It could have been easy to just go to Bozeman, Montana, but I said, screw it, let's book a tour to Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah, take advantage.
Yeah, so we did that. We booked a tour to Bozeman, Montana, got to Bozeman, and started we went across the country, like up through, Nebraska, Denver, to California, up California, Oregon, Seattle, and then hit Bozeman.
That's amazing.
And that was, that tour was, it was pretty cool, yeah.
How old were you at that time?
Maybe 22.
Oh, wow. So you're super young. So was your family looking at you like, this guy is crazy? Or was that the time where they were like, wow, maybe he was right? Or like, how was that experience?
Family wise, that's a whole different. So there's a lot of abuse with the family.
Okay.
And like that type of thing. So anything to do with family and like the music was me kind of just giving the
finger,
giving the old bird
yeah,
to him, because I was, especially with my mom, it was a lot of verbal and physical abuse, that type of thing, and always being told never gonna do anything, you never amount to anything, you're worthless, and all that type of stuff. So to me, that was a lot of the drive, is just being able to say, okay, you think I'm, you wish you didn't have me, you think sorry. I'm worthless, and I mean, but there's nothing to be sorry for though, because if that didn't happen, then I might not have the path in the life that I had. You know what I mean? Again, always got to find the positive, because if I came from this household where mom was like loving and cared about me and all this other stuff, maybe I wouldn't have done any of those things, because I would have been I would have been comfortable. I don't have to have that drive to prove something, right? And then that's what drove me for a long time. Was I'm gonna prove all these fucks wrong, and I'm gonna do it, and I did.
Wow. And you did.
But that was so. As far as that, no. There's no pat on the back and you did it. There was there was no relationship there. My dad's a different story. He was, we mended our fences later in life.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
How old were you around that time?
Probably like 34.
Wow. So you were out of the house probably late teens then?
I was out of the house when I was 16.
Wow. Yeah, that's very young.
My mom kicked me out when I was 16, and I was living in a van.
Wow.
Yeah. Not down by the river, as Chris Farley would say. But when I was 16, my mom was remarried, and she kicked me out. So, because I pretty much raised my two brothers from it when they were young.
You're the oldest?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. So and especially my youngest, I raised them, homework, feeding them dinner, that type of stuff. Because my dad was always working. Yeah. He worked, third shift, and so he was always working or sleeping because he had to be up for work. And my mom was just never around. She was kind of, I don't know what the fuck she was doing, to be honest with you. Looking back on it, she always told us she was working, but nobody works.
We see things with different eyes.
Yeah, nobody works that many hours in an office setting. Yeah. Anyway, so I was 16. I was homeless. Well, not homeless. I lived in my van, so I wasn't
not a home, but
I wasn't on the street though. You know what I mean? So again, always find the positive.
What do you think it is though about you that led to the trajectory that you have had versus somebody that could have ended up homeless, using a lot of different substances. Unfortunately, that is a really common story when you are a young developing mind and you're being beaten down verbally, obviously physically as well. But when our minds are developing and our brains are plastic, right? And that's the beautiful thing about neuroplasticity is you can rewire yourself in many ways. But when you're a child, you don't know how to rewire. You're just in your environment, you're absorbing. So many people that receive this wiring, they don't have the path that you've had. They're using drugs. They blow up their lives in different ways. It's really, really sad to get into that. But there are so many people that display such incredible resilience and also, in my opinion, like a really incredible way to develop a new relationship with themselves rather than the one that they had at home. Like instead of recreating that with their relationship with themselves and like internalizing that monologue, because a lot of times people take the bad relationship they had with maybe a parent or a sibling or someone close to them when they were growing up, and then they have that inner monologue for themselves. So it's like they repeat the relationship with that person with themselves, and in different kinds of therapy work, you might be familiar, call it like the critical parent, right? Or like the inner monologue of the critical parent. So my question to you is, what do you think it was? Or maybe it was a culmination of things. I don't know if it was a person or, genetic, what's the word? Redeposition? No. Predisposition. Oh my God. English. This is why I don't edit this podcast though, because that's just my brain. Predisposition that allowed you to have the life that you have now, that you've worked so hard to build. That is, we could talk a little bit more about your day-to-day now, but like successful and happy and full of love. And you have all these different careers that you've created in different ways for you in the way that you wanted to have them. Like you wake up every day, and not that you don't have hard things that you don't want to do, but you pretty much have created the life that you want. Like that's an amazing thing. That's the American dream. Yeah. So how did we get to the American dream from that?
As simple and silly as it sounds, it's really just kind of having pride in yourself and like what you want to be. I didn't want to be a loser.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Like I wanted to be successful, and I didn't want to be a loser. And really, there's just no excuses.
Yeah. Was it looking at people around you like, I don't want to be that? Or was there something that inspired you like, I do want to be that? Or you just knew for yourself, like, this isn't what the path that I could go down, that's not for me? Like, was it just an internal recognition?
I think it was, so from a very young age, it was hard to deal with because I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand why my mom is like this. Why is this happening? So there's a lot of struggle there. But then once I became a teenager, and I just was really like, I saw some things people were doing, and I didn't want that. And I wanted to, like I said, to be successful, but also, I know it sounds like cliche, but I wanted to win.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And if you're telling me, if your vote is that I'm not going to be successful, then you're not on my team. So I'm going to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, first example, that was my own mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's like, not on my team, against me, telling me I'm going to do all these things. Okay, well, we'll see. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my attitude about everything in life.
Yeah.
Like if you tell me I can't, okay, well, then we'll see. And in that path, there's just never accept an excuse, no matter what it is. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. And they say, well, if I have an addiction, then it's this. And if I had abuse, then it's PTSD. And okay, sounds like all excuses to me.
Well,
sorry.
It's interesting because there's a difference in denial, in my opinion, and denial of like, no, I don't have any of that. None of that affects me. And a crutch, because there is a way. So as someone, for example, I'm really super public about eating disorder recovery. So that's one of the things I look back on on my life. And I'm like, okay, my eating disorder definitely impacted my life, but I was always to the best of my ability looking for a solution. And once I did find something that worked for me recovery wise, I've done, for almost, that was a Freudian slip, for almost 8 years now, not over 8 years, almost 8 years, every single day, do the best of my ability to be in active recovery from that so that I can have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And so it's in that, it's like, I am not in denial that that has affected me, but I'm not going to have it be the reason that I'm sitting around someday being like, well, I couldn't be successful because I was born with this thing, or I couldn't be successful because this thing happened to me when I was in high school, or whatever it is. So it's like, in being in reality, having my eyes open, but also for me, looking at, and this is what is reminding me of what you're saying about your relationship with really anybody who told you couldn't. My relationship with eating disorder recovery is that's become an empowering thing for me, because the things that I've had to do and the way I've had to get to know myself in order to be in recovery has made me, in my experience, not just a better person, but a more successful person, a more in touch person with myself. I have more empathy and compassion for other people, which has changed all of my relationships. It's kept I have a magnifying glass on my life in a way that I wouldn't have had before, because now I have to watch out for anything that could kind of, push me in a direction that I don't want to go, because I know where that path leads, and it's a place of addiction, and it's not a good place to be. So I have a magnifying glass now that I wouldn't have to have if I hadn't had that. You could call it an affliction or something that I was, who knows, genetic or nurture versus nature. So it sounds like that when you're talking to me about what went on with your mom and different people in your life. It's like you could have chosen the path that was, well, this is an excuse and now I can't. But instead, it became a superpower.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, and, I have two brothers, and the middle brother kind of took that other path, right? It just, everything's, well, I can't because look what I went through or whatever. But, saying no excuses doesn't mean that
denial.
Yeah, right. It does. Right. I'm not going, well, it didn't happen, right? And I don't tell other people to not acknowledge that it happened and it hurt and it's painful and it does leave scars and it does affect you dramatically. Right. Everything that happened to me really, really affected me.
Well, and acknowledge the emotional impact, but then you get to decide what your actions are going to be.
You can't. I tell all my athletes, anybody that I'm working with, and if they're ever going through something rough, this is what I say. I say two things. One is, you're not what happened to you. You're what you choose to become, which is a Carl Jung quote, right? And then the other thing is, you can't, no matter what happens to you, you cannot control the fact that it happened. It happened. It's over. There's no changing time. That happened. You can't control it. Yeah. But I can control how I react to what just happened. Yeah. That's what I'm in control of. So focus on what you can control. So if, whatever happened, I can't control it, but I can control how I react, right? So for whatever reason, what happened through all the years of my youth with my mom. Can't change it. But I have a choice. I can just wallow in it and let it, destroy my life, or I can use it as, like you said, a superpower of saying, no, I'm not, I'm going to fuel all my drive with this, and that's what I did. And, you have to acknowledge things that happen. You have to. I'm not shy about with anybody, but that I've been in therapy. Yeah. And when you go through that type of, stuff, trauma, you should probably go to therapy. So I did, but it wasn't until much later. Yeah. And I always try to look at the positive. And the one thing, that I always used to do was say, well, this trauma happened to me, but at least I'm not I could be worse. I could be this kid. His mom was a crackhead and his dad, was shot or whatever, whatever. Crazy.
And there are success stories from that, which is wow.
But my thing was, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself because it could be like that. I see. And the therapist said, yeah, but this is you. Yeah. This is affecting you. You have to acknowledge that it happened and it hurt you and it affected you. And then once I did that, everything,
that's powerful.
Yeah, it was oh, okay, I can accept that it happened and I can move on from it fully. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, listen, I'm not perfect. When I was on tour and everything like that, never did hard drugs, but I drank a lot. You know, so I was, you know, looking back, I was masking anytime. I just didn't want to feel that hurt from what happened to me. So I would just drink. But even though I did things like that, you know, weren't smart, I never stopped. That goal was always right there. Yep. Like we said about I just kept moving, kept trying to, even if it's a sidestep, try to get forward. You know, like if you're trying to pass somebody, you can't, maybe cut an angle, but you're still trying to move forward. So that's kind of like the background of what my childhood was like. But that's, again, if anything that happened to you happens for a reason, you wouldn't be where you're at if the chain of events didn't happen the way they happened. And I'm very happy with my life. So beautiful. Why would you wish? It doesn't need to be different. I have a beautiful life. I have a successful life. I'm doing the two things that I love to do for a career. Like what there's no time. I don't need to complain about anything, you know? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And, you know, I know we're close on time. I'm going to ask you again about the get a grip thing. But before that, one thing that you said really hit, where you said that, like, the everything happens for a reason thing, I think really triggers a lot of people. And used to, I would believe that, but it would confuse me because I would be like, well, how can we say that about children going through, you know, extreme trauma? Like, how can that be meant to be? Or, you know, we use these phrases and one time someone said something to me that was super powerful. And this person used the word God, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be that word. It can be universe, whatever, like the collective human experience. Your belief. But the way that she said this was when bad things happen or when people are hurt, God cries too. And that was really powerful for me because instead of like a man in the sky deciding who has trauma and who doesn't, or who gets hurt, or what countries are war torn, or who's in famine, it was more like, you know, God cries too. No, he doesn't, he, she, whatever, doesn't want these things to happen. But, you know, like, I believe that love is really the only thing that exists, and then suffering is created by humans. Before humans come into the equation, everything's love, and then humans come in and there's human suffering that's created. And I believe, like, from my own experience and so many people I know with really drastic circumstances under their belt and in their histories, that there is nothing that a human cannot overcome. So even though suffering is human created, it's not like this guy over here was punished by something in the sky. It's like, this human had this human suffering, who had this experience created by human suffering, and there's nothing that cannot be overcome. So it's just a little bit of a shift where it's like, I feel like there is a certain level of destiny or fate or a path that I was placed on, and there were certain things, like there's nothing that I've been given or gone through that I could not overcome, and I am the exact right person for the job. Like, that's an interesting, shift. Like, I am the right person for this life. I'm the right person for the job. I wasn't punished. I wasn't poor me. It was Kendall was placed in this exact place, in this exact timeline, born on the exact day to go through this life, and everything is divinely inspired. Instead of viewing it as anything bad that's happened as like, oh, well, I was punished for X, Y, or Z, or why did God do this to me?
Yeah, it's your outlook.
And it's a hard thing to accept when things truly unfair, right? It's like people die before, like, people die young. People, go through horrible, different kinds of abuses. But I think, again, just going back to like, I don't know, I can't really see into everyone else's path. I just know for mine and the people that I talk to that are strong in their faith in this way, not necessarily just religiously, it's like, I'm the exact right person for this job, and there's nothing that I would change because it's made me who I am.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of everything we've been talking about all wraps around that, right? Like, you can't control what happened, but you can control your reaction. And as long as you have a choice. Yeah. I can look at the negative, or I can look at the positive. And if you only look at the negative, like we started this conversation talking about, if you only look at the negative, then you're going to let whatever happened destroy you, and then probably destroy a lot of people around you. Mm-hmm. So, if, my brother's an example, he chose a different path, and it did affect people around him in his life on a daily basis. And it's not fair to those people that have to have that second wind of the trauma that, you know,
ricochet. Right. Yeah.
So for me, I try to make it where, you know, the trauma happened to me.
Stops with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I don't want it to, you know, go into the people that are around me or the people, you know, I work with a lot of kids, and I just try to be in my own way, whatever role I play, I try to be the thing that I never had. You know what I mean? To those, to whoever I'm working with. And you know, a lot of the kids come back and that I've coached and worked with in football or jiu-jitsu and that type of thing. And they'll, you know, say, hey, you know, you played a big role in this or that, or, you know, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for, you know, the guidance you gave me. And that's, that in itself is
so
like
powerful.
Yeah, 100%.
And isn't the word purpose interesting? Like, I think there's so much purpose that we can find in, you said, this trauma stops with me. Like, this isn't going to ricochet on other people. And there's a lot of people that look to their parents or their families and they say, like, there was this generational trauma that was being passed down, and I took purpose in having it stop with me. And that's a really, really big deal. And it's a very worthy path to be on.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Beautiful.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so I know we're going to close, but the last thing before is I want to ask you again what it means to you to have a grip on your life, whether that's changed or stayed the same, or how you feel with that, you know, almost an hour later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same. But to add to it, like, you just have to have control of, you know, your reaction to the things that happen. You know what I mean? So, like, you have to have that grip on the things, how you're going to react to the things that happen to you. Because if you don't, you know, I mean, you could spiral, you know what I mean? Like, you can, like, even, you know, you have a reaction to something and, you know, your bad reaction could affect you and could affect a lot of people around you, right? I'm not perfect. I know that I've reacted to situations before in my past where it's affected me, it's affected people close to me, and it just trickles down, and all of a sudden, like, everybody around you is not, you know, having a good time or doing well because of the way you reacted to something. So I think having a grip is having that grip on how you react. And it all goes together. Everything we've been talking about, you know, you have to have a grip on how you react to the adversity that happens to you, and you have to make the decision to make it positive instead of negative. And when you do make it positive, you have to stay consistent and disciplined on that path of being positive. And I think, you know, like I said, it all goes together. And it goes to every part of your life. You know what I mean? It goes with music, with jiu-jitsu, with running a gym, with doing seminars. Everything is, again, you can teach a class and have 2 people. I could play a show and have 2 people. But if I have a positive reaction to that, give that all I have, that could turn into a positive thing and build. If I'm negative about it, then next thing you know, I'm going to continuously have 2 people and then probably 0, and then be unsuccessful and go out of business or, you know, something like that. You know,
I love it.
You have to just keep that positive consistency.
Yeah,
you know?
Love it. What we create amplifies, that's for sure.
100%,
awesome.
100%.
All right, Ray. So everybody who has listened to this, you guys know the drill. If you guys found value in the episode, which I know you did because this was amazing. Thank you so much for the time and sharing your spirit and your energy with us. Yes, if you guys found value in the episode, make sure you guys share it, send the link to somebody, rate, comment, all that. It depends on the thing you're watching on. It's YouTube or Spotify, Apple, you guys know. But anyway, we don't run ads on the podcast, so the only thing that I ask is you guys share it. And then the other thing that's really, really important for this one is please go stream Let It Breathe by Kill the Fall, okay? It's a brand new single. It's amazing. So it's on everything, right? Spotify, everywhere.
Pandora,
Apple.
Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Everything. Perfect. Let It Breathe, Kill the Fall. You guys can follow them on Instagram. Is there anywhere else they should try to find you?
No, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok.
Great. You got TikTok going. All right. We love it.
And then killthefall.net is also available too. So.
Perfect. And then album coming soon. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Before the year's over, we will have, so I tell everybody right now we have Let It Breathe out. May 3rd, we have the full band first single, and that is going to be called The Suffering, and that'll be May 3rd. Videos for both, and then right after that, there's actually a full, not full, but it's an EP of acoustic songs. So just me and the guitar, and there's 4 songs. We have 3 of our own, and then I do a cover of a song.
Amazing.
And then that'll come out in June.
Okay.
And then before the year's over, we're still writing. We have half of it written and a third of it recorded. So
nice.
It's a process.
Yeah.
But this process is a lot different than anything we've ever done before. So before, it was just very straightforward. Write the songs, go to the studio, record them. And this one, Bob, Marlette, and Ryan are producing. Nice. And it's a lot of pre-production. It's a lot of trying to make the goal.
Fancy now. You got fancy now.
And the goal is to make the best record acoustically and full band electric that I've ever done. And these two are really they're pulling a lot out of me and making me really analyze every little thing. And they're doing a great job of making me give the best that I could possibly give. You know what I mean? It's like having a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
It's like going and competing without a coach for however long, and then all of a sudden you get a coach in your corner, and they're really pulling a lot out of me. So
love it.
Yeah, it's good.
That's awesome, man. That's great. Well, congratulations. I'm so excited to see everything
you.
that happens this year.
Yes.
And thanks for having me for another seminar. We had a great time yesterday.
Yeah, everybody loved it. I already got a bunch of feedback. Everyone, they were loving it. So
that's great. I love it. I love it. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you back for another episode, and stay cool in the meantime. No, I can't say that. I was going to try to say a cool outro, but I can't say stay cool. I'm not even cool. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.